Welcome to Julie Noted. Last week, something as significant as the Pentagon Papers, the Watergate scandal, the Teapot Dome scandal, or any other political scandal in American history happened. Two IRS whistleblowers, the IRS is the Internal Revenue Service, two IRS whistleblowers testified before Congress alleging some massive improprieties, some massive displays of corruption practiced by our first family, President Joe Biden, as well as his son Hunter Biden, and many of their extended family members. Now, there has been a dizzying amount of details that has been revealed in these testimonials. There have been talks about attorneys, prosecutors, bribes, subpoenaed bank records, laptops, the FBI, IRS, DOJ, Romanians, Kazakhs, Chinese, Ukrainians. It's difficult to keep up with. But today, I am going to tell you the most significant takeaways from these IRS testimonials, as well as what has been revealed about the Biden family over the past few months. Our House of Representatives has done really an extraordinary job of trying to dig up some of this information that has just been buried and lied about. As confusing as it may be, it is something that we all need to know about. This is concerning the President of the United States. So I intend today to make it as simple and understandable for you as possible. Everything I say you can count on is 100% factually accurate, and I'm going to supplement some of my assertions, my conveying of the facts with clips so that you can watch what was revealed in these testimonials. So I'm going to divide this into two main takeaways, which is a compilation of all that has been revealed. But before I go to these two main takeaways and the details that I put under them, I'd like to give you a little bit of a history or a background of how all of this information emerged. It really started back in 2022 when the Republicans won control of the U.S. House of Representatives in the midterm elections. They won by a hair, just a tiny margin, but it proved to be incredibly significant because honestly, without the Republicans taking control of the House, we would not have known a lot of this information that has been revealed. So this is just, if any piece of information I give you about the importance of voting, let this be one of the biggest ones. It is so important to vote because Republicans that control the House, or any party that controls the House, gets to set the agenda on what various committees investigate. So we know that prior to Republicans taking control of the House, the Democrats launched the January 6th committee. Once Republicans took over, they got rid of the January 6th committee, and instead they replaced it with two committees, the Weaponization of Government Committee, and also a committee that investigated the Biden family corruption. Going back to the January 6th committee, this is a piece of information that I want to convey to you because it really sets the scene here. There was a piece of information that was revealed once the House was taken over by Republicans that I think set the stage for a lot more corrupt activities coming out. And that was when the U.S. House of Representatives revealed that the prior January 6th committee had not put forth all of the video that was taken that day. When the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, a Republican from California, came to power, he found that 40,000 hours of January 6th footage was not released to the American people and not played during the January 6th committee, which was intended to tell all of us what really happened that day. One of the biggest revelations that we found in those 40,000 hours was that Jacob Chansley, who was known as the QAnon shaman, he was the guy with horns and his painted skin in red, white, and blue. He was kind of the face of January 6th. What we found out is that Jacob Chansley actually was escorted around the Capitol by 9 different Capitol police officers. I want to show you that video, and then we'll pick up on why this is so significant for the Biden investigation now.
To this day, there is dispute over how Chansley got into the Capitol building. But according to our review of the internal surveillance video, it is very clear what happened once he got inside. Virtually every moment of his time inside the Capitol was caught on tape. The tapes show that Capitol Police never stopped Jacob Chansley. They helped him. They acted as his tour guides. Here's video of Chansley in the Senate chamber. Capitol Police officers take him to multiple entrances and even try to open locked doors for him. We counted at least 9 officers who were within touching distance of unarmed Jacob Chansley. Not one of them even tried to slow him down. Chansley understood that Capitol Police were his allies. Video shows him giving thanks for them in a prayer on the floor of the Senate. Watch.
Thank you, Heavenly Father, for giving the inspiration needed to these police officers to allow us in this building.
So Jacob Chansley, the man in that video, was sentenced to 4 years in prison for trespassing into the Capitol. But the thing was, according to that video, he didn't appear to trespass because 9 different Capitol Police officers were escorting him through the chambers and even opened the door of the Senate for him. This revelation, the Republicans taking over the U.S. House of Representatives, getting access to the footage that was not revealed to the public and showing it to the public, had a huge effect on the American people. It released this man from prison because there is a law which states that the prosecution must turn over all relevant evidence that might go towards whether that person would be thrown in prison. And clearly the prosecution didn't do that because when he was being tried for this crime, they didn't show that video of the police officers escorting him. So he was released from prison. But it had the greater effect of showing the American people that there were a lot of things that were hidden by our government, especially by people who were claiming to want to tell the American people the full story, and of course, they didn't. So I would argue that this revelation of what actually happened with regard to Jacob Chansley on January 6th opened the door for a lot more people inside our government to raise their hands and go, wait a minute, you think that's it? There's a lot more that we need to tell you, and that has certainly been the case with the 2 IRS whistleblowers who testified before the U.S. House of Representatives last week. So now I am going to turn to the 2 big takeaways that we have learned with regard to the Biden family corruption. The first is that the Biden family has gotten a lot of cash over the past few years from foreign entities, that they have used their political position to intimidate and coerce foreign nationals into giving the Biden family that cash. And the second takeaway is that the DOJ, the IRS, and the FBI, and many other government agencies, which are supposedly impartial pursuers of justice, actually did the bidding for the Biden family and helped them achieve their ends, or at least tried to stop them from being punished from doing so. Now, we have already known, thanks to the Republican control of the U.S. House of Representatives, that a lot of these agencies that I mentioned have been compromised. Of course, we know about the Twitter files, which was the scandal that the FBI was actually holding weekly meetings with Twitter leading up to the 2020 election to censor conservative content. We learned, thanks to the Republican-controlled House, that the former general counsel of the FBI, James Baker, actually went to Twitter, became an employee, and he was specifically the man who quashed the Hunter Biden laptop story 3 weeks before the election, even though the contents of it were true. So we have known this, but what has been revealed over the past week is staggering and devastating in its immensity. Let's go to the first takeaway here, the cash. A lot of it that the Biden family has gotten. I'm going to go through a timeline here with specifics of what has been revealed. First, the House Oversight Committee, which has been led by Representative James Comer, has subpoenaed bank records from the Biden family because there's been a lot of shady stuff that all of us have speculated with regard to the Bidens. First of all, they live a pretty extravagant lifestyle. They have many homes and possessions that do not seem commensurate with the payment of a government employee. Also, there have been confidential human sources which have reported to various agencies that the Bidens may have taken some bribes. And so the House Oversight Committee used that as evidence to subpoena the Biden family bank records. What they found was that during the time that now President Biden was vice president under President Obama, His family opened over 20 shell companies, LLCs, which really didn't do anything besides collect money. To pause for a moment, that is shady enough. Why do you need 20 plus LLCs in the first place? It's just plain weird. And these LLCs had all these different names: Robinson Walker, Owasco, Hudson West III, Rosemont Seneca LLC. They all had different names, but they were all doing the same thing, serving as mechanisms for the Biden family to get cash. According to the subpoenaed bank records of these LLCs, the Biden family got at least $10 million from firms run by foreign nationals, principally Chinese, Romanian, and Ukrainian foreign nationals, both during and after the time President Biden was vice president. This kind of makes sense because it appears from the information that I'm about to tell you that then Vice President Biden thought that his political career was over once he left the vice presidency. It seems he didn't really think that he would end up becoming the president of the United States. So we see that during these VP years, the Bidens really wanted to use that as an opportunity, their final opportunity, to cash in. So these payments of over $10 million, the U.S. House of Representatives Oversight Committee found out were doled out to the Biden family, A, through these various shell companies, these LLCs, B, on a staggered timeline, which is total evidence of shadiness. That's what all corrupt people do with payouts. They won't pay it immediately, but they'll do it over time so as to not seem like they are doing anything shady. And then C, these payments were doled out to at least 9 different Biden family members besides the president, including the first son, Hunter Biden, President Biden's brother, James Biden, James Biden's wife, Sarah Jones Biden, the late Beau Biden's wife, Haley Biden, Hunter Biden's ex-wife, Kathryn Buell, Hunter Biden's current wife, Melissa Cohen, as well as, quote, 3 children of the president's son and the president's brother. So it really pays to be a Biden. Now, these 2 IRS whistleblowers last week actually revealed, according to their knowledge of the situation, that $10 million is actually a low estimate. They say the Biden family got in as much as $17 million from these foreign nationals between 2014 and 2019 from entities in Romania, China, and Ukraine. $8.3 million of that $17 million went to the first son, Hunter Biden. So that's bad enough, but then the question is, well, where did the rest of it go? So now I'm going to go through these 3 foreign national sources: Romania, China, and Ukraine. Now, there have been others, but these are the 3 main ones that have doled out the cash to the Bidens. And with each of these entities, you will see that the Biden family was not just paid off. They lied about it, they coerced people, and they just ruthlessly and shamelessly used their political position in order to get their desired outcome, which was a corrupt, massive payout. Let's start with Romania. The Biden family, again, this is all according to the whistleblowers, the subpoenaed bank records, the investigations. I'm going to put several articles of my sources in the description box down below because it is so important that everyone know how true this is. And that I am not just making this up because I happen to dislike the president's politics. Everything I am saying to you here is 100% truthful. The Biden family received approximately $3 million from a company controlled by a corrupt Romanian national, Gabriel Poviciu. Okay, this was during the time that Biden was VP and a few years after he was VP. And interestingly, while Biden was VP, he was lecturing Romania on how they had to pursue anti-corruption policies. Meanwhile, he was getting a corrupt payout from a corrupt Romanian. Seems familiar because President Biden lectures all of us about the importance of democracy and saving the soul of the nation. And meanwhile, he is arguably the most corrupt, bought-off president in United States history. So these subpoena bank records show $3 million payout from this Romanian guy. And allegedly, this was transferred to, you guessed it, one of the 20 shell companies, Robinson Walker LLC, which was controlled by Hunter Biden's business partner, Rob Walker. This is what they do. They send it, they're not dumb enough to have Romanian guy send it directly to Joe Biden. They do it through these intermediaries, these shell companies, and also through associates so that they leave fewer fingerprints. This was between November 2015 and May 2017. A third of this $3 million allegedly went to Hunter, Haley, and an unnamed Biden member. 16 of the 17 payments in this deal occurred while Biden was still the vice president. And then, according to Representative James Comer, the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, quote, the money stops flowing from the Romanian national soon after Joe Biden leaves the vice presidency. Let's go on to China. Those of you who listen to me know, I hope would know by now how much I care about this issue. China is our number one greatest adversary, period. They kill about 100,000 Americans a year through fentanyl. They make and manufacture the fentanyl, sell it to the drug cartels. They funnel it across our border. They spy on us through TikTok and WeChat. They just opened a spy base on Cuba to spy on our military bases in Florida. They also steal billions of dollars annually in intellectual property. These are really bad people, and they are out to destroy the United States. What better way to destroy the United States than to compromise our highest leader in the land, President Biden? And that is what they have done, okay? By the way, when the spy balloon traversed over the United States earlier this year, the Chinese spy balloon, you know what happened? It took the Biden administration 4 days to shoot that balloon down. It had already gone over the United States, taken its photos. And then in recent weeks, President Biden has said, the Chinese didn't mean it. I don't think they knew, what was happening with that spy balloon. I just want to point out to you, it is no coincidence that President Biden tries to say that the Chinese are not implicated here in this Chinese spy balloon thing. He is paid off by the Chinese. Of course he is going to defend them and brush away their breaches of national security. It is sick. Sick is an understatement. In February of 2017, a few weeks before Vice President Biden left office, Ye Jianming, who is a founder and chairman of the CEFC China Energy Company, which is a CCP-backed enterprise. All companies in China are CCP-backed. The CCP controls everything. This guy, Ye Jianming, is a big friend of President Xi Jinping. He has helped Xi Jinping's Belt and Road Initiative. He's actually called the Belt and Road Billionaire for all that he and his company have done for Xi and that initiative. Ye Jianming, in February of 2017, took someone out to dinner in Miami. Guess who? The first son, Hunter Biden. Then he wasn't the first son, now he is, to clarify. Okay? They have this nice dinner in Miami. Totally nothing to see there, right? Okay? According to the laptop, Hunter Biden's laptop, Mr. Jianming promised Hunter Biden $10 million annually for at least 3 years in return for Hunter Biden making, quote, introductions. So you see the picture here. Hunter Biden's dad is in a position of power in the United States. This CCP-backed Chinese energy tycoon wines and dines the son of our now president and says, I'm going to give your family a lot of cash if you introduce me to some people. And that is what they have done. In later emails from the laptop, the correspondents, the Chinese guy and people representing the Bidens, said that a percentage stake of, quote, 10% will be held for the big guy. Now, Hunter Biden's associates, Tony Bobulinski and James Gillar, testified under oath that the big guy is none other than Joe Biden. As a gift of goodwill, the CEFC executive later gifted Hunter Biden a 3-carat diamond worth $80,000. As if that was not egregious enough, that payout and that diamond, subpoenaed bank records also show that on March 1st, 2017, State Energy HK Limited, which is a firm affiliated with the CEFC Energy Company, wired $3 million to Robinson Walker LLC. That was less than 2 months after then Vice President Joe Biden left office. $800,000 of that money went to Walker himself, the business associate. $600,000 went to Hunter, $300,000 went to James, and $25,000 went to Haley. As if all that wasn't enough, the Bidens continued to coerce these Chinese CCP-backed nationals into giving them more cash. Hunter, on July 30th, 2017, according to WhatsApp messages that these IRS whistleblowers exposed to Congress, angrily, threatened a Chinese businessman, Raymond Zhao, over text messages over a deal that Hunter Biden was afraid he wasn't going to cash in on, okay? So this is according to the WhatsApp messages that were disclosed to Congress by these IRS whistleblowers. Apparently, Hunter told this CEFC employee who he was texting, Raymond Zhao, that he was, quote, sitting with his dad, and that the two of them, quote, would like to understand why the commitment made has not been fulfilled, i.e. why Raymond Zhao and his cronies didn't pay the Bidens even more money than they already got from them. Reading from the text messages, Hunter writes to this Chinese guy, quote, tell the director that I would like to resolve this now before it gets out of hand. And now means tonight. And Z, if I get a call or text from anyone involved in this other than you, Hunter Biden wrote, Zhang or the chairman, I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction. So he's sitting next to his dad and threatening this guy using his dad's political stance to get the bribe money. This is the president of the United States, everyone. Photos show that Hunter Biden was actually at his father's residence in Wilmington, Delaware, the day of the text. Diners nearby spotted them at a restaurant, so it was confirmed that the day of the text they were actually together, and this threat worked. On August 4th, 2017, the CEFC official paid Owasco LLC, which is one of the 20 shell companies, $100,000. This was immediately flagged as potential criminal activity. And then another $5 million was subsequently wired from the CEFC subsidiary to Owasco on August 8, 2017. This money was later transferred to another LLC, Hudson West, and Hunter Biden is listed as the co-owner. In November of 2020, right after President Joe Biden was elected as our president, Di Dongjiang, who is a vice dean at the School of International Relations at Renmin University in China, bragged about the fact that Chinese officials have bought off the Biden family. He is quoted, "We have people at the top," he said. "We have our friends who are at the top of America's core inner circle of power and influence. For the last 30, 40 years, we have been utilizing the core power of the United States. And now we're seeing Biden was elected. Trump has been saying that Biden's son has some sort of global foundation. Who helped build him those foundations? Got it? We are a laughingstock. Our biggest adversaries have bought off our highest leader and they brag about it to state TV. It's embarrassing, to put it lightly. So what we know is that Hunter Biden has used his family connections to get rich. He has taken bribes from a foreign adversary, our biggest foreign adversary, China. And also, our own president, Joe Biden, has totally denied this. Let's listen to a recent clip 2, where a reporter asked President Joe Biden about those text messages between Hunter and the Chinese energy tycoon.
How involved were you in your son's Chinese shakedown text message? Were you sitting there? Were you involved?
No, I wasn't, and I don't know.
Were you?
No.
No, I wasn't involved. You were sitting right there, Joe. The guy just lies with the ease with which he breathes. Let's listen to another clip. This is an earlier clip of him, I believe, on the campaign trail, denying knowing anything about his son's business dealings.
I have never discussed with my son or my brother or anyone else anything having to do with their businesses, period.
Mr. Vice President, how many times have you ever spoken to your son about his overseas business dealings?
I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings.
Do you stand by your statement that you did not discuss any of your son's overseas business dealings?
Yes, I stand by that statement.
So the Bidens, we know, have gotten millions from Romania. They've gotten millions from China. You think they're done? Of course not. They're going to use every opportunity they can. Let's turn to the third and final biggest foreign national that was revealed, and that is Ukraine. So Senator Chuck Grassley, who is a Republican from Iowa, has released an FBI-generated FD 1023, which is a confidential document. This is from a legally protected Justice Department whistleblower. And the form shows that a confidential human source from the FBI alleged that they were told by the CEO of Burisma, which is a Ukrainian energy company, which Hunter Biden served on the board of, but we will get to that in a moment. This FBI confidential human source was told by the CEO of Burisma, Mykola Slavshevsky, that he was forced by the Biden family to pay them $10 million in exchange for then Vice President Joe Biden pressuring the Ukrainian government to fire Viktor Shokin, who was a prosecutor that was investigating Burisma. So here's how it goes. While Joe Biden is VP, his son, Hunter Biden, despite knowing nothing about Ukraine, despite knowing nothing about energy, is conveniently put on the board of this Burisma energy company in Ukraine. He is not just put on the board, but he gets a $1 million annual salary from this board. That is more than, the average salary for the average board member here in the United States who serve on the board of Fortune 500 companies is $85,000. So you see this was a massive payout. So there was this prosecutor, Viktor Shokin, in Ukraine, and he was going to investigate Burisma. And so what the Bidens did is that they apparently coerced the CEO of Burisma to pay the Bidens all of this money so that Vice President Biden could use his influence to get that prosecutor fired. Now, this would benefit both the Bidens and Burisma, because obviously the Bidens don't want any information about bribes to be found out if that prosecutor looks through Burisma's holdings. But also, Burisma is a corrupt Ukrainian energy company, and they don't want this prosecutor investigating them. So they paid the Bidens millions of dollars in order to get rid of that prosecutor. So the CEO of Burisma allegedly told this FBI confidential human source that during a meeting in 2016, quote, the CEO said, quote, that it cost him $5 million to pay one Biden and $5 million to pay another Biden to get rid of this prosecutor. This CEO of Burisma alleges that he has 17 recordings between Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. 15 of them are with Hunter, 2 of them are with Joe Biden, which serves as evidence for his claims, and that he was indeed coerced by the Bidens to pay out this bribe. Now, interestingly, when Biden was vice president, he acknowledged that he actually successfully got rid of this prosecutor in Ukraine. But he said that it was in America's best interest to get rid of this prosecutor because he was a corrupt prosecutor. But what we really know is that there was a payout going on behind the scenes, which enabled Biden to get rid of that guy. In 2019, Zlovchevsky, the CEO of Burisma, told that FBI confidential human source that he did not send the funds directly to, quote, the big guy, which the CHS, confidential human source, understood to mean Joe Biden. Now, the CEO of Burisma did not indicate how he sent the funds, but he did say to the CHS that it would take them a long time, a decade specifically, to be able to find the alleged illicit payments that were made to the Biden family. By the way, this document, the FD 1023, which reveals this alleged bribe taken by the Bidens by the CEO, or from the CEO of Burisma, was actually a document that Representative James Comer, who is the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, knew about for a long time. And he asked the director of the FBI, Christopher Wray, who is in charge of such documents, to hand that document over to the House Oversight Committee so that they might be able to look at it. What happened a few months ago, though, was that the FBI director, Christopher Wray, stalled. He didn't want the House Oversight Committee to view this FD 1023 document. And originally, he let Representative Comer and a few others see it, and then he stalled some more, and it got to the point where Representative Comer had to threaten contempt of Congress hearings against our FBI director in order to coerce him, demand that he turn over this document to the committee and to the American people. So it just shows you that our FBI, which is supposedly an impartial group that strives to pursue justice was actually trying to cover up for the Biden family. Why else would they stall handing over this document which implicates our first family? Let's listen to a clip. This is from a debate that President Biden had with Donald Trump, in which he says that he has never taken a penny from a foreign source in his life. Clip 4.
All of the emails, the horrible emails of the kind of money that you were raking in, you and your family. And Joe, you were vice president when some of this was happening, and it should have never happened. And I think you owe an explanation to the American people.
I have not taken a penny from any foreign source ever in my life.
Remember, this alleged Burisma bribe was taken by the Biden family while Joe Biden was vice president. So here in this presidential debate, when he says that he has never taken a foreign penny from anyone in his life, he had, because of what we know now about Burisma and what we know about Romania and China. So it shows you that this man just lied to the American people. Let's listen to another clip where President Biden denies that his son Hunter did anything wrong with regard to Burisma. Clip 5.
Vice President Biden, there have been questions about the work your son has done in China and for a Ukrainian energy company when you were vice president. In retrospect, was anything about those relationships inappropriate or unethical?
Nothing was unethical. Here's what the deal. With regard to Ukraine, we had this whole question about whether or not, because he was on the board, I later learned of a Burisma, a company, that somehow I had done something wrong. Yet every single solitary person, when he was going through his impeachment, testifying under oath who worked for him, said, I did my job impeccably. I carried out U.S. policy. Not one single solitary thing was out of line. Not a single thing.
Okay, so this summarizes takeaway number 1. I have 2 takeaways to remind you in this episode. This first takeaway was that President Biden took cash from foreign nationals and lied to the American people about it. And not just that he took cash, and not just that he lied about it, but he also used his political influence, he and his son, to coerce these foreign nationals in handing over millions of dollars. Before we get to the next part, which is takeaway number 2, I want to tell you all about MyPillow. I use MyPillow products all day, every day. And I really mean that. When I walk in to the studio, as everyone around me knows, I walk in wearing my slippers. And then when I go home, I go to bed on my pillows. I love their products. They are truly excellent. I would not advertise them if I did not use them and think that they were worth you purchasing yourself. And you can purchase them indeed for a lower cost using the promo code Hartman, which is my last name, spelled Hartman. A queen-size MyPillow sells, using this promo code Hartman, for $19.98. The regular price of this queen-size MyPillow is $69.98, and it's $10 more than that for a king-size MyPillow. So you see what a great discount you're getting if you use the promo code Hartman. You can go to mypillow.com and click on the radio and podcast square and type in the promo code, or you can call 1-800-566-6745. That's 1-800-566-6745 and use the promo code Hartman to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. Back to the discussion of the takeaways, the revelations, thanks to these 2 IRS whistleblowers and other information that has been revealed from subpoenaed bank records, confidential FBI documents, etc. We've dealt with takeaway number 1, which is that President Biden has taken cash from foreigners, and a lot more members of his family have done so too. Takeaway number 2 is that the DOJ, the FBI, the IRS, and many other government agencies, which are supposedly impartial, were actually doing the bidding of the Biden family, trying to protect both our president and his son, Hunter, from being found out about their improprieties. So let's go again with a timeline. Last month, June of 2023, Hunter Biden took a cushy plea deal from the Department of Justice on tax and gun charges. Okay, so let's go. What was his tax charge? What was his gun charge? The tax charge is that from 2014 to 2019, Hunter Biden, in some of those years, failed to pay the entirety of the taxes that he owed to the government. I'm reading here from a news source, and all of the articles that I use for this episode are linked in the description below. Quote, Hunter Biden received taxable income in excess of $1.5 million annually in the calendar years 2017 and 2018, despite owing in excess of $100,000 in federal income taxes each year. He did not pay the income tax due for the earlier year. That was the tax charge. The gun charge, again reading, quote, from on or about October 12, 2018 through October 23, 2018, Hunter Biden possessed a firearm despite knowing that he was an unlawful user of and addicted to a controlled substance. It is a crime to possess a firearm if you are under the influence or known to be an addict. By the way, isn't that something that Democrats talk about all the time? The importance of background checks, the importance of people who are seeking to get and own a gun must be mentally healthy. Well, we see here the first son violated this, but the DOJ allowed him to plead guilty to 2 misdemeanor tax charges, and he was given a chance to avoid prosecution on that separate gun offense. So basically, Hunter Biden got no prison time despite violating these 2 laws. So just to pause there, many are saying that's bad enough. You know, President Biden talks about how the criminal justice system has to be administered and applied equally, regardless of your skin color or of your last name. But here we see the first son, as I said, is getting this cushy deal from the DOJ. But there's more. Of course, there's more. We've seen this whole episode. The bad thing is never enough. There has to be 10 more bad things on top of it. Those 2 IRS whistleblowers who bravely testified before Congress last week, Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler, said to the House Oversight Committee that their attempt to investigate Hunter faced unprecedented meddling. The IRS is the Internal Revenue Service. They are in charge of going after people who avoid their taxes. So these 2 whistleblowers were assigned to the case with regard to Hunter Biden. And they alleged, and we are going to hear the opening statement of one of them in just a few moments, that the Department of Justice interfered in their criminal investigation of Hunter Biden's taxes by A, tipping off Hunter's legal team to a planned search, B, preventing questions related to Joe Biden that they would ask of Hunter Biden, C, delaying certain warrants that would be approved but somehow underwent a stalled, elongated process, D, that the IRS team in charge here did not have access to Hunter Biden's laptop, and E, that FD 1023 document, which revealed the alleged bribes that the Biden family took from Burisma, was also not handed over to the IRS team that was investigating Hunter Biden's taxes. Let's listen to the opening statement from IRS agent Gary Shapley about all of these improprieties. Clip 6.
My name is Gary Shapley. I've worked as a special agent for IRS criminal investigation for 14 years. I have risen to become a senior leader in the organization and currently supervise 12 elite agents in the International Tax and Financial Crimes Group. I have worked directly with United States attorneys in multiple districts and have supervised or investigated cases in more than a dozen United States attorneys' offices across the country. I have led, planned, or executed undercover operations or search warrants in more than a dozen countries. I have investigated and managed some of the largest cases in the history of the agency, recovering more than $3.5 billion for the United States taxpayer. In this country, we believe in the rule of law, and that applies to everyone. There should not be a 2-track justice system depending on who you are and who you're connected to. Yet, in this case, there was. Based on my experience, I'm here to tell you that the Delaware U.S. Attorney's Office and Department of Justice handling the Hunter Biden tax investigation was very different from any other case in my 14 years at the IRS. At every stage, decisions were made that benefited the subject of this investigation. For example, prosecutors concealed contents of Hunter Biden's laptop from investigators. DOJ slow-walked steps to include interviews, serving document requests, and executing search warrants. Warrants that were ready as early as April of 2020, but were delayed until after the November 2020 election and never pursued. Investigators were not allowed to follow up on WhatsApp messages from Hunter Biden's Apple iCloud backup, where he suggested he was sitting next to his father. Assistant United States Attorney Leslie Wolf cited the optics of executing a search warrant at President Biden's residence as a deciding factor for not allowing it, even though she agreed that probable cause existed. Prosecutors instructed investigators not to ask about the big guy or dad when conducting interviews. The Biden transition team was tipped off about interviews the night before the investigation went overt, a fact my FBI counterpart confirmed to this committee in recent testimony, where the result was that only one witness spoke to investigators that day. These are just some of the examples of how our investigation was stymied.
So that's a really powerful and good synopsis of what that particular IRS agent was alleging. Now I want to show you 3 clips that gets into some more of the specifics of those allegations. And even though you've just heard them, I want you to hear again this individual testifying that this happened under oath, because there's a lot of misinformation out there that, oh, that IRS agent didn't allege this, and people are saying that conservatives are just making this up. I want you to hear it straight from the IRS agent's mouth, what has happened. Okay, first clip that we're going to show, clip 7, is that a U.S. attorney involved in the investigation specifically told the IRS investigative team not to ask about President Joe Biden.
But U.S. Attorney Leslie Wolf told you she did not want you to ask questions about Dad, meaning Joe Biden. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, to state the obvious, that is interference of the law. Now let's go on to another clip, clip 8, where the IRS agent testified that President Joe Biden was actually present at various investigative meetings with regard to possible criminal charges of his son.
The witness described an instance where CEFC executives were, or people involved in the CEFC were meeting at the Four Seasons, and that the subject's father, President Biden, showed up at that meeting.
So President Biden was there physically?
That's what the witness said, yes.
And then a third revelation is that the IRS whistleblower testified that the Department of Justice allowed the President Biden's political appointees to decide if Hunter was going to be charged. Now, the guy who was actually supposed to be in charge of overseeing this investigation was David Weiss, who is a Trump-appointed U.S. attorney and prosecutor. Our Attorney General, Merrick Garland, said a few weeks ago that the way that the American people can know that the investigation into Hunter Biden is impartial is that it is being led by a Trump appointee as opposed to a Biden appointee who might want to favor the president's son. But according to Gary Shapley, that's not true. A U.S. attorney for D.C., Matthew Graves, who was appointed by President Biden, was actually the one apparently in charge of prosecuting or deciding to bring criminal charges against Hunter Biden, not David Weiss, who was the guy that was supposed to be in charge of doing that. In fact, Gary Shapley said that he overheard David Weiss telling 6 IRS agents and FBI agents that he was not the deciding authority on the case, even though the public was made to believe that he was. Let's listen to Gary Shapley say it himself. Clip 9.
In April 2022, in a hearing, Attorney General Garland was asked how the American people could be confident the administration was conducting a serious investigation into the president's own son. Attorney General Garland responded by saying, because we put the investigation in the hands of a Trump appointee. He led Congress to believe the case was insulated from improper political influence because all decisions were being made exclusively by Delaware United States Attorney David Weiss, but that was not true. The Justice Department allowed the president's political appointees to weigh in on whether to charge the president's son. After United States Attorney for D.C., Matthew Graves, appointed by President Biden, refused to bring charges in March 2022, I watched United States Attorney Weiss tell a room full of senior FBI and IRS senior leaders on October 7, 2022, that he was not the deciding person on whether charges were filed. That was my red line.
So we know that the Biden appointee, Matthew Graves, was actually the one in charge of the Hunter Biden criminal charges, i.e. not to bring criminal charges against Hunter Biden, and not that Trump-appointed U.S. Attorney David Weiss. Gary Shapley also reveals that Matthew Graves' wife, Fatima Gross Graves, visited the White House at least 28 times since President Biden took office. In the first 3 months of 2023 alone, Graves, Fatima Graves, the wife of Matthew Graves, visited the White House 10 times. So it appears that Matthew Graves' wife was used as a liaison between the Biden family and the people who were investigating Hunter Biden. That has been a lot today that I have told you about. I hope it has been simple and understandable. There have been so many revelations, but it is important to distill them down to the most important. So I'm sure some of you are wondering, well, what's next? Well, all of the information needs to come out. The House Oversight Committee is still combing through documents. They have heard these IRS testimonies, and many believe, with good reason, that they may go forward with impeachment proceedings. I'd like to end with a little bit of hope. I've been playing clips from Derek, or why do I keep calling him Derek? Gary Shapley, who is one of the two IRS whistleblowers. But I'd like to play you a clip from Joseph Ziegler. He is the second IRS whistleblower. He is actually a gay Democrat, and he talked about how difficult this has been for him coming out with this damning information about the Bidens because the left has tried to cancel him and call him a traitor. I think that he displays remarkable virtue and courage. Let's hear him.
I was the lead IRS case agent on the Hunter Biden investigation. I've recently discovered that people are saying that I must be more credible because I'm a Democrat who happens to be married to a man. I'm no more credible than this man sitting next to me due to my sexual orientation or my political beliefs. The truth is, my credibility comes today from my job experience with the IRS and my intimate knowledge of the agency's standard and procedures. I was raised and have always strived to do what is right. Although I do have my supporters, others have said that I am a traitor to the Democratic Party and that I am causing more division in our society. I implore you to consider that if you were in my position with the facts as I have stated them, ask yourself if you would be doing the exact same thing. I hope that I am an example to other LGBTQ people out there who are questioning doing the right thing at the potential cost to themselves and others. We should always do the right thing, no matter how painful the process might be. I kind of equate this to the experience and feelings I encountered when coming out. It was honestly one of the hardest things I ever had to go through. I contemplated scenarios that would have been highly regrettable, but I did what is right, and I'm sitting here in front of you today.
As concerning, shocking, and sickening as these Biden allegations are, as big of a threat and an affront they are to democracy, to the rule of law, we do have some people like Shapley and Ziegler who are standing up for what's right. Stay tuned, everyone, and boy, there will be stuff to stay tuned for. We are not seeing the end of this, and you can come back here to this YouTube channel and trust that I will be covering it all. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you soon.